Hello friends, thank you for joining me again today. Let me get my monitor all set up. Hello there, my name's Dan. This is Daily Art Adventure number 851. Woohoo! That's my standard outburst after I announce a number. I typically say, woohoo! I am so impressed with myself. I'm up to 851. All right. This is still working on a painting. You can watch me do a couple broadcasts of it in the last week or so. These are oil sticks. By the way, part of the technology of the oil sticks, it's not oil pastel. It's a stick of oil paint, and part of the thing they figured out to make it work is that the sticks skin over, that the outside layer dries, and then the inside layer, the inside, I should say, is protected from driving. We do not let these sticks dry. It'd be good to know, at least in North Carolina. California, they probably do, but protects them from drying. So that's why sometimes when you see me like that, do an initial mark and nothing happens, it's because I'm rubbing through the dried over skin. And what you see me doing here is also fairly recent development in my painting. I don't know, sometime in the last year and a half, anyway. I'm going to throw that out. Here's a little stub of the blue that broke off some time ago. Which answers my question: do they ever dry? And the answer is certainly. They do dry out slowly. I'm not even going to maybe explain why I'm doing this crazy stuff. Because if I start answering that question, there'll be no end to it. Why do I have black pencil marks underneath? Why do I have a red paint mark there, and yellow there, and everywhere? Why do I have big red here and red and white here? Because it looks cool. All right, now, liquid. My favorite medium. The only bad side about liquid is it is a little odoriferous. It's a little smelly, smellier than I would like. And some 3-inch brushes. All right, let me talk about the painting and the state that it's in at the moment. This is the second wide skyline painting I've done in a row. Did one last week. If you've been missing the last week or so, don't be confused. I'm doing 2 similar paintings, roughly similar, high views of the Raleigh skyline. And in both cases, and this is unusual, almost ironic, in both cases, I started the paintings. Let me see if I can figure out what kind of green paint I have all over my hands here. In both cases, I started the paintings with a grid. Let me show you my photo reference. You can see the grid on that. I'm assuming red and white, 2 colors, even 3 colors, is a great way to help yourself not get lost when you do a grid. It's very unusual for me to do a grid. I do it when I'm doing a subject matter with a ton of detail, especially architectural things have to be in the right place, and when I'm painting large. So that's my excuse. I don't like grids, but when you're painting big and detailed, it's just it saves a ton of time. So there you go. All right, and the current state of this painting is it's quite detailed for the abstract. For the acrylic phase. I haven't even gotten to the oils yet, and it's already that detailed. So that also is a little bit different. Not my normal process. Enough talking, though. Let's start glazing. Let me answer a question. If you're copying me, imitating me a little bit, that's perfectly fine. To be influenced by me for a while, perfectly a valid way to grow. I do the same thing, copy other people for a while. How do you know when it's time to go from acrylic to oil? And the answer is when the drawing is nearly perfect. Actually, in this case, it's beyond that. When the drawing's nearly perfect, when the colors are nearly perfect, and when, most importantly, maybe when the values are close to what you want the finished painting to be. Now, part of the reason I'm mentioning that is I am violating that rule considerably on this particular painting. All here in the middle, it's check, check, check. The drawing, the color, and the values are close. But all the big areas all around the outside, in this particular case, are not close. So this is too light, way too light. And I almost did one more layer of acrylic glaze to darken this. But I just decided, nah, this time I'll just do it. I'm just going to do it in oils. A little bit unusual, and I just want to point out that I'm not following my own rule at the moment. That rule being, hello, Uncle. That's correct. No, this live stream is not going to disappear. That's a very good question. So you can come back and watch it later. Typically when hang on a second, I'm going to go over here and open the front door. There's a little bit more air coming in. And you know what? Hang on. Here, you can watch me prove that I'm actually doing what I say I'm going to do. I'm going to go over here and open a dining room window. Part of the reason it's particularly pleasant to open windows in our house these days is just a couple months ago, we paid a lot of money for new windows all over the house. All right, and they work very nicely. So I typically, the most common glaze is warm and cool. The most common warm is oxide red, which I just realized I need to get more of that out, which is an orangish brown. Oxide, don't be confused by the name. It's rust color. It's orangish brown. Oxide red and ultramarine blue. And I think this painting will probably be no exception. The only question at the moment is, do I want to start with oh, I had that open because of my fumes here. Sorry about that. I know, this is when I wish I was painting upstairs, but this painting's too big to go upstairs. Okay, here is one of my favorite brands for oxide red is Charvin, pronounced no doubt by most Americans, Charvin, as a matter of fact, pronounced as Charvin by most Americans, I'm sure, because it's a French word. By the way, a couple weeks ago I mentioned I got into some trouble with at least one of my listeners because I was complaining about health insurance, which then somebody thought I was making a political point, and so they evidently I triggered them terribly, and they went off on me, and they ridiculed me severely. It was a terrible lashing. It was, because they thought I was rich. They thought I was one of them. You know, God forbid that anybody should be rich. And one of the evidence that they had that I was rich was that I mentioned I'd been to Paris a couple times. The reason that comes to mind right at this moment is because it was the Charvin people that flew me to France to try out their paints. Okay, so it had nothing to do with how wealthy I am. No, okay. It absolutely did have something to do with skill that had nothing to do with money. I've never been wealthy enough to take a vacation to Europe. I sure expect to be someday, but I'm not yet. I want all you guys to sign up for my class that I'm going to want to teach. In where was the latest place I was talking to somebody? Anyway, it doesn't matter. Anyway, I'm just laughing because this person put two and two together completely wrongly and assumed I was rich because I had been to Paris a couple times. And the other 2 times that I've been there, likewise, I didn't pay for it. So it is skill that got me there, but it wasn't money that got me there. Fair enough. And my skill comes because I'm a hard-working son of a gun. All right, there is a bunch of oxide red all over everything. And now I've got ultramarine. And Uncle 60 made a point a minute ago that this painting has to be done by Saturday. Well, this painting has to be, I don't know, 85% done by Saturday evening, Saturday afternoon, because I'm going to finish this painting live at a fundraiser event. And I seriously considered today, stopping at the acrylic stage and starting. I'll start painting at about 5:30 or so on Saturday afternoon, and the live auction, takes place about 8:30, maybe 9 o'clock, I'm not sure. So I seriously considered waiting until Saturday, but then I decided no, because I really want this to be, I can certainly finish a painting in that amount of time, but I can't finish a painting in my new era, my new style, the way I paint nowadays, as you know. I can finish and do a satisfactory painting, but I can't do it the way I want to, because I've evolved, especially at the end of my painting process, where I have several more steps. Again, if you follow me, you know this. I keep tagging new steps onto the end of my painting process. Like final edit used to be the final. Now I've got, after the final edit, I do broken color, sparkle, final glaze, and lifting off for more sparkle. Something like that. So at least 4 steps after what used to be the end of the process, the final edit. Anyway, so I decided I actually do want to make it a really good painting. For years now, 15 years now, I have been doing live event paintings of all kinds at fundraisers and festivals and weddings, of course, where I would literally start and finish the painting right there in front of everybody in the course of an evening. In fact, the first 100 weddings that I did, all but one, and it was a wedding where I did 3 paintings. The first 100 weddings I did, I finished every single one by the end of the reception. Now I never finish a wedding at the reception, again, because of this evolution that I mentioned just a minute and it's not because I'm getting slow, quite the contrary. In fact, I did a painting last Thursday evening that I did finally get paid for, by the way. I did a painting last Thursday evening, 2 weeks ago tonight, I'm sorry. And I did a 36 by 48 painting, start to finish, in 3 hours and 10 minutes. So I brought it home and touched it up only a tiny bit. Anyway, so I could still paint fast, but it's not my preference because, again, just because my own painting journey has taken me down this path where I use more time, I have more layers, more stages, more phases that I want to go through. By the way, I've got now, and I haven't cleaned these brushes at all yet in this painting. So I started out with brown, right, oxide red, went directly to ultramarine without cleaning my brushes. And I've also picked up a little dioxazine violet. And now it's mostly phthalo blue. I am always very attentive in this stage, in this phase of the painting process. I pay a lot of attention to composition, that is to say, to my major light and dark zones in the painting. And very often that entails, as it clearly does in this painting, that entails vignetting, if I can turn that into a verb. Everybody knows what a vignette is, right? A vignette is darkening the corners. So I just turned vignette into a verb. I'm vignetting the corners. To do a vignette in a painting is not a hard and fast rule by any means. I don't want to give that impression. But I think about 90% of my paintings, if you want to check me out on this, go to dannelsonart.com and just look at just flip through my paintings real quickly and see how many of them, in fact, have a distinct darkening in the corners. And I think you'll see that most, maybe not 90%, but a pretty high percentage, just in fact, as this one does now. And the painting is coalescing quite nicely now. And it's very often, I say, it's with the oil glaze stage, with this stage that I've just finished, that the thing on the canvas finally really starts turning into a painting, quote unquote, instead of a picture, a painting versus a picture. I use that terminology quite a bit, as you know. I'm not painting a picture, and I mispronounce the word on purpose just to be ornery. I'm not painting a picture. I'm painting a painting, and there's a huge difference. I had a fun little test of my philosophy, my mindset about painting just this morning. I was working on my new website, weddingpainter.com, and that for some reason led me to Facebook, and that led me to Instagram. And I spent several minutes in Instagram following people, and evidently Instagram could detect, smart little fella. Instagram could tell that I liked to follow artists and painters especially. So it was, as you know, the way the whole social media machine works, it was throwing up at me all these different suggestions of artists' Instagram accounts that they thought, you might like this one, you might like that one. So it was kind of fun. It was a rare moment for me in the course of maybe 25 minutes. Oh, by the way, now there's a very important part or step of the glazing step, which is lifting out, which again is even pushing the composition even more. By the time I finish this stage, the lifting out, the composition of this painting should be pretty much locked in. And this particular painting is simply a blob. The composition is very simple. It's light and dark. It's a donut. Not a bad donut, I hope. I use often, anyway, never mind, I won't, there's a bad kind of painting I call a donut painting, but I don't want to. Anyway, so I sat there at my computer, scrolling is the way you do on Instagram. Instagram on my computer, you understand, it's a little bit different, see the images bigger and so forth. And just scrolling through hundreds, I presume, or well over 100. Anyway, I don't know if it's hundreds, but well over 100 Instagram accounts of my fellow artists. And I found it interesting to observe myself, if you will. I had the chance to be sort of objective, not thinking about my own artwork, but just in a very intuitive, and one could say even uncritical manner. In other words, I wasn't analyzing. I was just looking and clicking without scratching my chin a great deal. And there were a lot of fantastic artists. Ironically, a lot of them Russian. Wow. So Instagram evidently thinks I like Russian artists, and Instagram evidently is correct. I hate to admit it, but evidently they're right. Because I had to decide which painters to follow, to click on, follow, and which ones did I pass. And there were a lot of fairly realistic painters, and when I saw their realism, I was, like everyone else, I was sort of rocked back on my heels, like, whoa, that's good, whoa, that's good. Do you know the feeling when you see realism? It rocks you on your heels, so to speak. You go, whoa. Have I said that enough times yet? Whoa, that's good. But I found myself, not in the judging side of my mind, just purely in the visual side of my mind, I found myself saying, whoa, and moving on, and passing on, and not clicking. Whereas the paintings that made me say, whoa, and whoa, there's a single whoa and a double whoa, I guess, evidently, was the paintings. The conventional term, tragically, would be loose. And I don't approve of that terminology, as you know, anymore. Let me try to describe, if it's not loose, what is it? Well, one of the good descriptions is energetic strokes. So that's my new terminology. I'm going to try to avoid using the term loose because it communicates and miscommunicates to early journey or young painters. When you say loose, they hear sloppy, careless, inaccurate drawing. And that's what I'm steadfastly against at this stage of my journey. No. Accurate drawing. Voila. Look at this. Accurate drawing. But energetic strokes. So let me try to put that in some other words, because then right before I started this broadcast, one of the things I was doing was black pencils, these things, two hands everywhere, and just a lot of abstract and extraneous marks. Also a lot of marks that were representational. Let me zoom in just for a minute. But like that kind of stuff. Very, very meaningless in a realism sense of the word, like that stuff right there. Those are trees, so I guess you could say, well, that's kind of like tree branches. Yeah, but well, no. Let me point you to another one. Hello, Barbara, and all. I know all you guys are all chatting, and I'm ignoring you completely. Just that one mark right there. Am I pointing right? Yeah, just that angle right there. Just and another one right there. Absolutely nothing to do with reality. At the same time, I don't know if this is going to be a new trend or not. I have a watercolor pencil, and there's a bit red. There's a big mark right here. And I did almost an outline of the buildings up here. I'm just following some of my marks. And in fact, I did it off my left hand, not my right hand. Huh. I don't know if that's going to be a new trend. And just for what it's worth, to let you know, watercolor pencil, now that I've done liquid over it, it's now an oil paint medium, what was watercolor, because this is a red pigment, of course, red powder, if you will, bonded together with a wax that we typically, but that it's soluble with water. But once you put liquid on it, the liquid and the wax go, we're friends, and they go right together. So I don't have any qualms about using, I mean, I would have years ago. I would have said, you can't do that, can you? But yes, you can. So I don't have any problem. Anyway, all those extraneous, can I use that word? All those abstract marks. And what is it? And I'm going to stop. I need to keep painting here in a minute. But what is it that human beings, in my humble, which is not so humble as you know, my humble opinion, what is it that really draws the human eye to any particular painting? It's two things, two separate, in fact, opposed things. One is similitude, accuracy, realism. And that's why I don't go along with the terminology anymore. Loose drawing or loose painting, again, completely miscommunicates the reality. Tight. My mom might be listening, so I don't want to say any naughty words, but put a word after that that often follows the word tight, and you get more a little stronger feeling about really tight drawing, accurate drawing, but done with energetic strokes, and in fact, energetic strokes and energetic abstract marks on top. Again, like here, this is a yellow paint mark that was done. You can see it right through this building right here, down here. It's been partly covered up, yeah, but it's still quite visible. I say this all the time, but absolutely nothing to do with realism, absolutely nothing to do with similitude. Like, what's that supposed to be? Is that a little bit of a rainbow? No, how absurd. No. It's just a mark. Now, it's a pleasant mark because I did it like that. Pleasant marks are made with pleasant motions. Anyway, I've got all the same kind of stuff everywhere, all over the painting. Some bold, some subtle. There's a big green one right here. It goes goes away from the edge of the painting. Green. It's largely covered up, but not completely. In fact, in some places, I intentionally didn't cover it up. Green, and peters out. But there's a little bit of it right there. So what is it that the human eye gets a kick out of? It's two things: accurate rendering, similitude, and abstract marks. The abstract marks have to be interesting, powerful, beautiful, balanced. I don't know, I'm just trying to think of words. Aesthetically pleasing. And the drawing has to be, of course, accurate, quote unquote, within. That's it. I don't want to go down that detour. Here's another very pleasant mark right here. Oh, this was my, what I just did with the oil stick a minute ago. So, in case you didn't notice, the big oil marks that I made just a little while ago are all oil fuzzes now. They're just fuzzy, like this green right there. Lovely. And some of the rest of it, I've just lost it. But it's here, but I just can't find it anymore. I can see this right there, and that's nice. All right. At this point, after the glaze is finished and the glaze is wiped off, historically, the last 15 and a half years since I've been painting more or less in this style, I either do, well, for many years, I drew. It was time for dark details with fairly small brushes. And then it would be dark stuff, okay? And then starting about 4 years ago, I started using a pencil. So it was, at this point, either pencil or dark details in oil. You with me? One or the other. Usually if I did pencils first, then I'd follow up with paint, or if I did paint first, I'd follow up with pencil. But then, again, starting about 3 years ago, I started doing this fuzz layer. And then, starting in this last year, I think, the fuzz layer the layers that I painted got rearranged somewhat. And I find myself often doing fuzz at this point. I'm still thinking about whether I want to do that. If I do dark details, dark paint details right now, then I'm going to let this painting dry before I do the fuzz. It was very brave of me to announce that this was going to be oil glaze and fuzz, because I rarely predict ahead of time. And I'm thinking right now. No, I'm going to stick with the plan. I am going to do fuzz. And I don't know where I'm going from there, so we'll just see. All right, so let me go back and see how many people are saying hi here. Uncle Valahia Daka. Thank you for speaking up. Ian Jackson, good to have you here. Thank you for giving me the recipe for red oxide pigment red 102. Thank you. Oh, Valahia Daka. What made me make this channel? Oh, I'll tell you in a minute. Oh, Ian, because my easel has a lock down here. There's a locking device. I had it in the off position, so there. Now it's locked. Good question, very good question. Hello, Susan. Hello, Barbara. And Valahia Daka, I may be Valahia Daka, 21. I might be butchering your name. I'm so sorry about that. That's what I've been talking about. So I'm hoping you caught that answer. Now let's talk about the fuzz layer. And this is new. I date it actually to July 4th. 4th of July, I was downtown painting, as I often am on the 4th of July, in downtown Raleigh with 50,000 people around me. And, I mean, not around me, but, 50,000 people downtown. I was right about there, on a street that runs that way. And anyway, it doesn't matter, but that's when this started. The fuzz layer is, could also call it atmosphere. It's very soft edges, light, opaque, soft edges, and local color. Enough talking, let's paint. Any part of this painting that I really want it to appear like it's glowing. Again, here's my photograph, but of course I'm not imitating, I'm not copying the photograph. I'm being influenced by it, but I'm not copying it. All right, and I know right where I want to start. Picking up a little titanium white and a little yellow ochre. Yellow ochre is my favorite color, or Naples yellow, either one. Naples yellow is like a lighter version of yellow ochre. That is not scientifically speaking, I'm just speaking loosely. All right, I want the front top corner of this building right here to really glow. It's not the focal point of my painting, but it's a pretty important explosion of light. I really want the sun to feel like it's just really bursting. It is, I guess, I'm painting the people that are going to be at this fundraiser on Saturday. The great majority of them are going to be natives of Raleigh, or I mean, they live in Raleigh now. I don't mean they were born here. Hardly anybody was born here. This is one of those cities where everybody's from somewhere else. 90% of the population is from somewhere else. They will recognize that this is one of our new, all of these buildings here, well, this included, all of this and that is all new in the last 5, maybe 10 years. And if it is more than 5 years, it's only I'm giving deference to me being an old person and time flies. But it feels to me like they've been there about 2 years, and I know that I'm probably acting like an old person at that point. So it is a homage, if you will, homage to our fast-growing city. This used to be the warehouse district. There used to be rust and crumbling. You can imagine, you know the type, because there's areas like this in your city. And I hope that in your city they're rebuilding it, but I know that many people are not as fortunate as we are here in Raleigh with experiencing the renaissance of our city, where we are experiencing a renaissance in our city, quite a significant degree. Anyway, so that's enough talking. So it just makes sense for me to kind of show off these buildings somewhat because we're proud of them. They're brand new and shiny and sparkly. Okay. And now I've got a pale so I want you to see I'm painting this face of this building right here. That I was painting it, and my marks went a good 3 inches outside of that, outside the lines, to use coloring book terminology. Okay, I want you to notice that. It took me quite a long time to get comfortable doing this fuzz layer, because it looks forever like I'm ruining the painting. It just looks like, no, you're just ruining it. It's taken me quite a long time to get over that fear and to realize that, no, actually, I'm not ruining it. It just looks like it. I'm actually making it a considerably better painting. Here's why. Of course, I'm adding more interesting marks and chaos and abstraction to the painting. And again, that's what the human eye is drawn to. It's drawn to a combination of careful deftness, that's a word I don't usually use, deftness of drawing, carefulness in drawing, combination of that, and reckless mark making. There, I've never said it that way. That's kind of an interesting way to put it. Okay, deft drawing combined with reckless abandon, reckless mark making. So that's one of the things I'm doing. Now another thing that I'm doing, well, right at the moment, another thing I'm doing is increasing the atmospheric perspective considerably. So that you could almost call the fuzz layer like atmospheric perspective on steroids. It's just super duper. And the atmosphere here is an evening. Actually, this painting has shifted so much toward evening in the last 2 layers. I need to stop here and pause, because until a little while ago, the sun was here and it was a bright blue sky. And now we're going pretty far. I have to rethink that a little bit. The third thing, and this is very important, the third thing that the fuzz layer is doing. Okay, let me repeat, because I interrupt. What is it doing? Interesting marks, interesting abstract marks. Creating a glow around anything that I want to look like. And the glow in this case, of course, is coming from sun hitting it, right? It's not because, in this case, not because it is glowing in and of itself. It's just the glow of the sun. And atmospheric perspective. So I guess I'm up to 4 now, right? On my list, what is this doing? And I just forgot what the 4th one was. Oh, no, here it is. I remembered. And this might just be my problem. Oh, I am winking mightily. No, that's just me being humble, or as they say in Texas, humble. I don't know why they say that in Texas. It's so weird. But anyway, I lived 9 years in Texas. Here's the other thing that it's doing, and I definitely need it, but I'm not the only one, is in the battle or the balance between hard edges and soft edges. In that battle, you want soft edges to win. And boy, I learned this late in life. Maybe that's why I'm so passionate about it. You know, the passion of the zeal of a recent convert in any area of life. And that, I confess that is me. I was slow to the party. I was late to get the memo. I missed this for years and years and years. The importance of, I'll say it again the same way, in the tug of war between hard edges and soft edges, you want soft edges to win. I often say it this way, a different way. I often say it's very easy for a painting to have too many hard edges. Nearly impossible for a painting to have too many soft edges. Did I say that? Easy for a painting to have too many hard edges. Nearly impossible for a painting to have too many soft edges. Now, again, I could talk about that for a long time. I don't want to. I will say that this morning when I was going through Instagram and clicking on the artists that I really liked, I saw scores and scores of artists that I liked a lot. But the ones that truly rocked my world, rocked my socks, really got my attention, were the ones that were doing what I'm talking about here. Accurate drawing, strong abstract elements on top of, along with, between those two things, that is, we have a conflict as artists. As artists, we're burst into a cosmos in conflict. And the conflict is between realism and abstraction. And as you know, if you're a regular, I say all the time, first half of Art Journey, we're learning how to paint stuff that looks like stuff. This is an ideal journey, in my opinion. First half of our art journey, we're learning to paint stuff that looks like stuff. Second half of our art journey, we're learning to paint stuff that looks like paint. Between those two poles, painting stuff that looks like stuff and making interesting marks, dynamic, abstract marks. By the way, I'm doing a light yellow-green here on some of these. The sun is hitting some of these trees. Between those two, which one is easy and which one is hard? That's easy. Realism is easy. Abstraction is hard. I will spend the rest of my life, well, I'll actually spend the rest of my life improving in both realism and abstraction. But you can teach realism. In fact, and I love to, in fact, I'm very fired up right now. You might have heard me mention in the last couple of days or so that I'm teaching a class this summer and this fall, anatomy, 12-week anatomy class. I'm so excited about it. I'm working on it already. Well, you've seen if you've been following me. I did a couple of rough broadcasts, live broadcasts on one on hips and one on the ear. And I'm just having a great time. All right, bear with me just a second. I have to scrape off, get myself some room on my palette here. I use a glass palette and I scrape it off with a razor blade like so. And I've run out of room for mixing, so let's clean it up here for a minute. So we spend I think, as artists, and when I say first half of our journey, that doesn't mean when you get into the second half, you never, like study anatomy. Or in my case, even I study automobile anatomy, much to my chagrin. I sort of don't care about cars, like I did when I was in 7th grade, and that was, 50, 55 years ago, no, 53 years ago, right? Something like that. But alas, because so many of my paintings have cars in them, I discovered a couple years ago, it's like, oh, you know what? I really got to up my game in the way I handle painting cars. So anyway, my point being, you never outgrow the need to get better at drawing. But in the second half of the journey, the focus tends to be a little bit more on studying what is abstract marks. And again, my experience on Instagram this morning, just without me trying, I didn't sit down saying, by golly, I'm going to test my philosophy of visual art. No. It was after the fact I realized, you know, I'm doing exactly what I claim. That is that the painting styles that move me most is a combination of realism and beautiful abstraction, both. All right, so I'm certainly not saying anything new. I'm just trying to say it in different words today. By the way, what I'm doing right now, I've just mixed up again, more titanium white and less yellow in it. I mentioned a little while ago, I was getting concerned at how twilighty, how warm the sky was becoming. As I haven't really been seeing this as a sunset painting, and it got a little too sunsetty there just a little while ago. So I'm repairing that. It'll still have there will still definitely be some warmth in the sky along the horizon, but not as much as I had just a little while ago. So I'm happy with the feel I'm getting now. And you can clearly see why one of the descriptors that I use for the fuzz layer is atmospheric perspective. I mean, it is the perfect way, in my opinion, to achieve atmospheric perspective. A little while ago, I said this thing that I say often, that you just can't have too many soft edges in a painting. And most of you that are listening to me, if you're a worser painter than I am, you really need to be paying attention to me. And if you're a better painter than I am, then why the heck are you watching me? That's not entirely true, because I do occasionally watch painters that are worse than me. But I don't make a habit of it anyway. So anyway, there are a number of you, if you're so to speak behind me in your journey, what I'm saying about soft edges, by golly, you need to pay attention to this, because this is you, my friend. You need a lot more soft edges in your painting. The other thing, there's a parallel. It's not exactly related. No, it is kind of, but there's a similar statement. You ready for it? Well, ready or not, I'm going to give it to you. Here it is. That lots of atmosphere or not too much atmosphere. What's the preference? You know it. That's an easy one, isn't it? The answer is lots of atmosphere. I'm going to exaggerate slightly, but just to make the point. Doggone it, you cannot have too much atmosphere in a painting. You just can't have too much atmosphere in a painting. All right, that's a slight exaggeration, but again, if you're behind me in your painting journey, forget that I said that was an exaggeration. As far as you're concerned, that is the gospel truth. And I'm saying this again because I know how people paint. I'm very much in touch with, early journey painters and how they paint. I get that every month at the painters group that we've been doing for 13 years. And I get called upon, I would guess, an average of twice a year maybe, to judge, local art shows. I don't get called upon to judge any big national thing, you know, but I get called upon to judge. So I know how people paint. I know how people paint. And I know what they struggle with, or what they ought to struggle with. And what you ought to be struggling with is atmospheric perspective. More, 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 more. More atmospheric perspective. So I lost a lot of hard edge detail in this painting in the last 10, 15 minutes. I think I'm going to stop right here because in a minute I'm going to stop with the fuzz layer. I've lost a lot of hard edges. I'm going to bring back a little bit more, but not a lot, just a little bit, here and there and here and there, to taste, you know, quote unquote, to taste. In other words, it doesn't bother me that I'm overdoing the fuzz thing right now. It doesn't bother me at all. That's just fine with me. There's plenty of time to come back and do, revive a few hard edges. But again, it's very easy. I'm repeating myself. It's very easy for a painting to have too many hard edges. Nearly impossible for a painting to have too many soft edges. It's just not going to happen. And you know I'm not speaking in a scientific manner. I'm speaking like a teacher, like a passionate teacher. So the painting is not finished, but it is definitely on a better path than it was just a little while ago. And I'm thinking here. Pardon me, time out while I think. See, one of the ironies of in spite of the fact that I've slapped so much soft, fuzzy stuff all over this painting, that in spite of that, you can still actually literally see all the details. It's not like I didn't wipe out, you know, hours and hours, which I certainly have. I did not wipe out hours and hours of drawing. It's still there. Okay, I decided to launch into the sky again a little bit. And this, by the way, what I'm doing right now is a really good, at least for me, is a good way to paint skies. I have a hard time painting skies. And forgive me, I'm going to sound kind of arrogant for a second, but it's just the best way to put it. I really have a hard time painting skies because I'm so good at painting skies. Now, forgive me, I'm going to be humble in a second, but that's just the best way to put it. Here's what I mean by that. It's hard for me to paint skies because I love skies. I'm a student of skies. I study when I'm driving down the freeway, you know. I'm studying the clouds and analyzing what makes them look the way they look and how do they look and all that kind of stuff. Because I'm an artist. I'm sure many of you do the same thing. So, and this goes back decades, man. I can flat knock out a realistic painting of clouds. Does that make? That's what I mean by it, because I'm so good at it. What I mean is when it comes to sky, hyper-realistic is my middle name. I'm speaking kind of foolishly just to make the point. Therefore, but a hyper-realistic sky in this painting would be a disaster, correct? Correct. So it's really, I have a hard time painting skies. What I mean by that is I have a hard time getting loose. So what you see me doing here, the two-handed technique serves me greatly. And this is not the first layer that I've done this kind of spastic, if I can just use that word. Forgive me, it's probably politically incorrect, but this kind of frenetic That's with an F, right? Not PH. F, frenetic. This kind of frantic, close to frantic, but not exactly. Unrelated, I'm sure, etymologically. This is not the first layer. In fact, there's been layer upon layer upon layer, layer upon layer upon layer of sky painting just so far in this painting, and I'm not done yet. Each layer having a fairly high, frenetic content. Okay. Anyway, so just for what it's worth, I say all that because I bet I'm not the only one that has a hard time with skies, because I'm probably not the only one that loves skies and can study them and tends to get all tight when we're painting skies. I've lost a little bit more of the early abstract stuff than I would like, frankly. I might even come back here in a minute and wipe off some of the stuff I'm doing right now just to get back to those crazy abstract marks. Some of you, especially if you're new here, welcome, glad you're here. You might be saying, well, that's weird. Why is he painting the blue last? Wouldn't you normally paint the blue sky and then paint white clouds on top of it? I would say, yes, you normally would. If you're an early journey painter, that's exactly how you would do it, because that would be the realistic approach to painting. One of my mantras is whenever possible, whenever you can, paint a thing or things in your painting in reverse. That is, instead of don't paint the object, render the object by painting it, the stuff around it. In other words, if you're painting a white picket fence, boy, this is, again, somebody out there needs to hear this, or a railing, a porch railing, or whatever. And just this is an extreme example. If you're painting a white picket fence, oh my goodness, do not get out the white paint and start painting pickets. Mostly, you paint a slab of messy white, and let's say it's green grass behind or a bush, green bush behind the picket. You paint the picket fence by painting the green between. You leave the pickets. I could go on and on and on. I don't have the energy right now. I could, I just don't want to. I've said it so many times. Keep listening, you'll hear me explain some other day why to do that. There's a very, very specific reason. I don't have the energy to get into it today, so sorry about that. But just trust me, if you haven't heard me say that before, that is around here, around these parts, that is a truism. You don't paint the stuff by painting the stuff, you paint it by painting around. So I've just painted clouds, not by painting the clouds last, but by painting the blue around the clouds. But now I'm about to contradict myself, because now I'm back to painting white again. So now I'm painting clouds. But what you just saw me do, where I painted the blue sky, that in fact, the last thing I do on this sky, there's about a 90% chance that the last color that I apply to this sky, so I have a couple more layers to go yet, right? The last color I do will be blue, the blue sky between the clouds. And again, there's some real good reasons for that. I don't have the energy to explain why. It has to do with the magic of abstraction and so on and so forth. Once you enter into the second half of your painting journey, again, first half of your painting journey, in an ideal world, You should learn how to paint stuff that looks like stuff. You learn how to draw. To put it super bluntly, dang it, learn how to draw. Then the second half of your art journey, you learn about interesting marks, and the magic of abstraction, the principles of design become paramount. One of the descriptions I would have for my painting, as I would for every great painter like that I saw on Instagram today, is that the picture, again, I mispronounced the word on purpose, the picture is just a thinly veiled excuse for line, shape, design, value, texture, color. The 7, I don't know if I said all 7 of them, but the picture is just a thinly veiled excuse for a carnival of composition, the laws of composition. That is what good painting is. And again, I could go off on historical reasons and so on, why we, anyway. Part of the beauty of painting with 2 hands is that my brain can't keep up with 2 hands. I can keep up with 1 hand. You can keep up with what 1 hand is doing. 1 hand can't get into much mischief because your brain can keep up with it. And therefore, you're hyper-controlled. You're too controlled in your painting. You know that. Most of you know that. But if you're painting with 2 hands, your mind can't keep up. So my mind can't anyway. So I automatically paint with more energetic strokes because I'm not scared to death. I don't have time to be scared. Now, it took me a while, of course, to get to the point where I wasn't scared. Well, I was going to say a while ago that I believe, and again, if I could snap my fingers and change one little piece of the world, I would change all the art departments in all the universities in the Western world. Now, of course, all of this is predicated on a bigger philosophical thing that I believe in beauty. I believe beauty is real. So I'm completely out of step, completely. By the way, I'll be completely out of step with almost everybody that's there on Saturday night. This will be the only, slight exaggeration, but close enough. This will be the only painting of the hundreds that are there, certainly of the live auction paintings. This will be the only beautiful painting of the whole evening. That's an exaggeration. There will be several beautiful abstract paintings, and I like abstract. There will be a bunch of bad abstract paintings too. They've already sent it out in an email. Most people don't know the difference between a good abstract and a bad one. Anyway, I'm getting myself into a philosophical rant, and I don't want to go there, so I'm going to stop right there. Oh, I was going to say, if I could change anything in the world, it would be the university art departments. I think that college students, 99% of them, should be taught nothing but how to paint stuff that looks like stuff. And, all right, sorry about that, friends. I am so sorry. I'm surrounded by about, at the moment, when I'm in my studio, 7 different electronic devices. And in the course of human events, some of them came loose. All right, it's just about time for me to wrap up anyway. Let me see if there's any. Yeah, there is. I'm not quite happy with the highlight, the green, the sun hitting the tops of these trees. So if I disappear on you again, I'm going to say that'll be the end of it. Because as a matter of fact, when I'm broadcasting, sometimes my camera, even though it's plugged in, to the wall, when I'm broadcasting, it eats up more juice than it can replace sometimes. So if that happens again, I'll bid you all a fond adieu. But in the meantime, let's see if we can get just a little bit more. little bit more fuzz. So I'm fairly happy now with where the painting is, understanding that it's not finished, right? I would not be happy for this to be my the finished product. It is, in my opinion, too soft. So yay! And for me, that's kind of like a moral victory. I've gotten to the point where my painting in the early stages, mid stages, can in fact be too soft. And so you can see, because my penchant, my tendency is to be, like most people, like most of you, my tendency is too tight. And so for me to, at this point in the process, to have a painting that's just a little bit too loose, and again, I don't like the terminology, but you understand, is like, well, that's good. So now I just have to ride the brakes, so to speak, when I get into the next several layers, which I'll describe for you here in a minute. I just have to make sure that I don't undo this softness too much. Now I've said this many times, I can easily imagine myself growing out of this process, growing out of the dedicated fuzz layer. I can imagine me just incorporating this into the final edit layer. But it's working for me right now, so I don't have to, there's no reason for me to, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's working. It's something I'll have to grow into, not something that I can force to happen just by wishing or thinking about it. Again, just one more layer of slightly brighter green stuff. Oh, I should mention, since I'm talking about the benefits of doing such a silly thing as painting fuzz, because I'm painting outside the lines. Oh, I'm sorry, I just realized I do want to do some blue before I leave. One of the advantages of painting in this manner is that by painting outside all the lines, I'm automatically accomplishing another principle that I've been aware of for many years, and that is, again, that the human eye, we like seeing little bits of the object that have escaped into the background and little bits of the background that have escaped into the object. And what color blue? Maybe I'm going to go with ultramarine. Oops. So, and the classic example that I use is a silly eye. Red barn, blue sky. We like little bits of red that have escaped into the blue and a little bit of blue that has imposed itself into the red barn. Okay, so we like interposed colors. That's weird. I know you may not have ever heard anybody else teach you that. Well, that's why I'm here. I'm just here to teach you things that you haven't heard anywhere else. I will swear on my mother's grave. I'm being silly. I'm just being silly. Plus, my mom's not dead. Praise the Lord. She's a wonderful lady. Still alive and very much kicking at age 94. So by doing the fuzz layer, I'm automatically, so to speak, I'm automatically achieving that delightful dynamic of having creating interposed colors. Oh yeah, this blue is going to make a world of difference. Wow. I saw it earlier, then almost forgot that I wanted to do it. I'm glad I'm coming back to it. It's a warm painting. Speaking of which, every painting should be either a warm painting with cool areas or a cool painting with warm areas, never 50-50. let me say that again, every painting, color painting I'm assuming here, should be either mostly a warm painting that has cool exceptions to it, or should be a cool painting with warm bits, okay? Which one is this? Clearly, this is a warm painting. And therefore, the little bits of the blue that I'm doing right now are of paramount importance. They're going to stay the minority for sure, but it's a very important minority. The painting is coming alive even as we speak here. It's like, ooh, yeah, that's better. And this is the perfect time to do it in the fuzz layer. So I'm not painting little bits and details at all. So I can accomplish the color, the tone that I want with great dispatch. I can do it very quickly. By the way, I'm ruminating, going back in my mind to some of what I said a little while ago, and I can imagine if there's somebody watching who's maybe an early viewer, and they heard me say that at the event tonight, at the event Saturday night, there will be around 300 pieces of art auctioned off. A couple hundred of them will be auctioned in a silent auction. Sign up on the clipboard, you know, or on your phone, I think the way it's done now, digitally. And then 60, 70, maybe 80, I'm not sure, of them will be part of the live auction is mine. I've done this every year for 15 or 16 years. I've raised a lot of money for this organization. And I had the gall to say a little while ago that mine, no, it's not going to be the only beautiful painting there. They put out an email where they advertised all the live auction paintings. They're sort of like the prize winners, if you know what I mean. Every year they pick out their favorite paintings that are submitted and are put into the live auction. And again, my paintings have been a part of the live auction for 16 years. I used to be on the board. That's why they're nice to me. Anyway, and I said a little too, what's the word, flippantly, that mine would be the only beautiful painting there. That's not true. There will be some beautiful abstract paintings. Some. Mine will be the only, probably the only beautiful representational painting there all night. Now, there might be some, a handful. But that is, in fact, the culture of this organization. Okay, so it's, I am the outsider. They know it. And I know it. This organization has not always had the philosophy, the culture that it currently has. When I was on the board, it was considerably different. But anyway, I can imagine one of you, I might have triggered you already, say, he's so arrogant, and say something like, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Okay, and I'm just gonna trigger you awfully if I keep talking, but that has never stopped me. No, that's actually a false statement. I'm gonna write a short article someday about the I don't know what the number is. The most ubiquitous myths in the realm of fine art or painting art. And one of them is that art is self-expression. That's myth number one, probably. Myth number two is that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Anyway, nope, That is not true. It's only true within a certain narrow culture within the painting universe. And the culture is people who are ignorant about painting. Woo! So if I triggered anybody, they're just doubly triggered now. Sorry about that. I'm not trying to be nasty. I'm trying to tell the truth. But anyway. I should try to be a little more gentle, shouldn't I? It's my broadcast. I'll tell the truth if I want to. You would tell the truth if it happened to you. Ba, 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 ba. Okay, now we're getting into a even broader myths of our culture. Postmodern myths. There's no such thing as reality. There's no such thing as truth. There's no such thing as the mind. Oh, believe me, I am not ignorant of some. Listen, I just want you to know, you relax. Please understand that whenever I say something that is horribly out of touch with current intellectual, academic, philosophical trends, oh, I'm aware of it. Probably more than most of you are, probably. That's just what I've chosen to do with the little modicum of intelligence that the Lord gave me. I've decided to use it mostly to study heavy subjects. It doesn't mean that I'm smarter than anybody. It's just that I leave a lot of worthless information out. Like who won last night's hockey game. Now, that doesn't mean I can't have fun watching a hockey game. But anyway, but I don't dwell on it because I read other stuff. What was I reading last night? It was some heavy philosophical. Never mind, doesn't matter. But it was heavy. I kind of had a moment where I backed up and laughed at myself. I am one weird kid. I don't forget what I was reading, but it was philosophical. That's just what some of us do. I don't do it because I have a degree. I have a degree because I do it. Do you understand? I'm not educated because I have a degree. I have a degree because I tend toward some topics. All right, now it's getting. All right, I have blathered on long enough, probably way too long. If you're triggered, I sincerely am sorry, but you can complain if you want, but if I want to be really nasty, I would say, show me your paintings, and we'll discuss whether we can discuss it. But that's not the answer to everything, is it? All right, be nice, Dan. Be nice. All right. Yes, there will be traffic, Barbara. In fact, I've lost some of it, haven't I? I can maybe recover some of it by just lifting out. I've had no telling how many cars I've had, and cars in the parking lots too. They're still there. You just can't see them at the moment. Okay, so before I go, let me just tell briefly where I'm likely to go from here. I'm going to let this dry. And now I'm going to do either draw with paint, and what I mean by that is small brushes, pretty small, like something like this, okay? Those are filberts, by the way, my favorite. Either draw with pencil and then draw with paint, or draw with paint and then draw with pencil, either one. At the end of the paint section, I want sufficient and adequate darks throughout my painting. Theoretically, I'm done with the darks. From that moment on, I march steadily toward the light. Not now, because the painting needs quite a bit more dark. It's too light right now. A little bit before I started this, it was too dark. Now it's too light. And that's exactly what I want it. It goes back and forth, back and forth. And with each layer, it gets closer and closer and closer to perfect. So I'll either do pencils, then paint, or paint, then pencils, and then the final edit layer. And I might save all that for Saturday night. But after the final edit layer, I want to do broken color, or while I'm doing the final, broken and pushed color. And then my preference, as you know now, is to do a complete glaze on top of the final edit and then the final sparkle. So I can't do all that Saturday night. So there's the pickle that I'm in. So I don't know. We'll just see. It may be. I'm just thinking out loud here for the two of you that care. Maybe I let this dry tonight, come back tomorrow. Maybe I glaze the whole thing now. Glaze whatever colors I want. And the rule for glazing, this is what you must do, and it's what I do. You put your hand on your chin. That part I'm not serious about. This part I am serious about. You say, I like it pretty much. Say it, say it, say it. Don't grumble it, say, I like it pretty much. I just wish it was more blank, and the blank is a color. So that's what I would do. And I can tell you right now, I like it pretty much, and that's true, but it's too green, the whole thing. The blue's too greenish, the green's too greenish, and the yellow and blue combined here is too greenish. So that's easy. That means I'm going to glaze it with some anti-green, which is red and purple in this case, okay? So I think I'm talking myself into that. I think I'm going to, because I can't do everything on Saturday night. I think what I might do then is glaze first, glaze, pencils, paint, and then final edit. And I'd still be missing the final glaze, but I'll be closer to a satisfactory product. Anyway, I'm babbling on, and most of you don't care. That's understandable. Thanks for watching anyway. Hope to see you again maybe tomorrow. Thanks. Bye-bye.